Alright, so here we go. What's going on, everyone? It's Augie, and despite everything and any usual intro for this channel, before we get into the video, I just wanted to thank each and every single one of you that has subscribed to the channel and that has helped us reach that huge goal of 10,000 subscribers. Whether it has been from the start of the channel last year, or you just so happen to recently subscribe to the channel, thank you all for sticking around and listening to my discussions on whatever anime and or manga that I choose to voice my opinion on. And really, I do appreciate it because it truly helps me and strives me to make better content for you guys on the channel. And so once again, thank you. But nonetheless, today we're going to be doing something a little different, something that I know a lot of people have been waiting to know and see: my top 10 favorite manga. Now, realistically speaking, I've always been more of an anime fan than a manga fan, but over the past couple of years or so, that has drastically changed. And for me to watch an anime nowadays, well, let's just say I'll probably drop it pretty early on if it doesn't capture my attention fast enough. But for manga, that aspect of build up and character development along the way, no matter what usually the story is about, just sticks out to me a lot more than what I would receive from an anime adaptation, at least nowadays. And just to clarify this is just my specific favorite manga in order from 10 to 1, so if you have a problem with it, I honestly don't know what to tell you, but by no means do I think any of these manga are better than what's in your top 10. This is just what I typically enjoyed in a top 10 format. So with all that being said, let's just hop into my top 10 favorite manga. Alright, so coming in at number 10, we have Haikyuu. Now, Haikyuu has always been a series for me that I originally watched first and went back and read the manga just because how much I simply enjoyed the sport aspect to it. Haikyuu wasn't necessarily my first sports series either, because previously I'd seen others like Megalobox, Yuri on Ice, and a few others. But before reading Haikyuu, I had some personal hands-on experience with volleyball, mainly beach volleyball, but never had I looked at the sport like I do now after reading the series of Haikyuu. And I think it's the same for a lot of other people as well with a lot of these sports series, because people tend to never like the sport beforehand, and after experiencing something from reading and or watching this series, it can teach you a lot of things you never knew to then encourage you to try and play the sport, which is honestly an amazing feeling. And if you've never read or watched Haikyuu, I highly suggest you do, mainly for one of those personal aspects. But as for the series itself, it definitely is highly underappreciated, and I feel like it gets clowned on a lot for its fan base, which is natural. But the way any team in this series grows and continues to grow throughout the series, whether it be from personal growth or as a team, this manga gives you a full-fledged experience even if you've never played the sport. So if you want that sort of feeling of being a part of something that you never got the chance to be a part of, then take a chance ball and read Haikyuu. Okay, so next up at number 9, we have Vinland Saga. And Vinland Saga is definitely a manga that captivated me right from the jump, and just like Haikyuu, it was a manga that I immediately picked up after the first season of the anime. And what unlike any other manga I've read, I've always been this sort of Vikings type of person, and that automatically was a big plus in my book for the series. The premise of Vikings alone are interesting and great to look back on history at, and there are multiple characters in this series that describe so many aspects of different types of literature and art that the Vikings alone portray. You see the dynamic early on between Thorfinn and Askeladd, and of course the mix of Thorkel along the way, and even later on, this might be a really bad example, but Dragon Ball for example, and how we get to see somebody like Goku go from a baby at the start of the series to a full-fledged adult where we are now in the super manga. And that's kind of how we get to see Thorfinn in a way that is obviously a lot different. Early on, we get to see how Thorfinn tackles his traumatic childhood to his rebellious teenage years to then finding happiness later on down the end half of the manga. And to be honest, that's kind of why I like Vinland Saga so much and why it's so high on this list. So with that, read Vinland Saga if you're into that sort of thing. Alright, so moving on, we have at number 8, Rent a Girlfriend. This is still an ongoing manga, by the way, so before any of you lousy people in the comments start going crazy, hear me out. Basically, if any of you know me, I'm typically more of a battle shonen type of guy, well, for the most part, and a lot more recently, I've been trying to explore other genres and demographics, and along those lines, I found the Rent a Girlfriend anime, which then after watching about 2 or 3 episodes, I decided to pick up the manga because at the time it was an ongoing series, and I'm not gonna lie, I was interested in seeing where the plot of the story was going to go. And one thing led to the other, and to me personally, this manga is debatably better than Kaguya-sama Love is War, but you didn't hear that from me. Anyways, as for this series and not my reasoning for reading the manga in the first place, well, like I said, I wanted to explore and step out of my comfort zone. In doing so, I found a bunch of romantic comedy manga, and Rent a Girlfriend just stuck out to me. The girls in this series are pretty much all bad except for 2 at the most, but what specifically I like about the series the most is the dynamic between Kazuya, who is the main character, and the main girl of the manga, Chizuru Mizuhara. And it's a lot harder to explain what I like about the series in a lot more detail. Just know if you haven't read it and you're looking for something other than a battle shonen for a change, try and venture off and read Rent a Girlfriend. Okay, now next up at number 7, we have a series that I haven't caught up to yet, which scares me because I don't want to admit it to the masked man or the Asa, or however you want to call him, that this series could potentially breach top 3 or even higher territory on my list, and of course this series being Berserk. Currently, as of this recording, Berserk is at a solid 9 right now, and after reading through the Black Swordsman arc and the Golden Age arc and a chunk of the Conviction arc, it blows my mind how many iconic and mind-boggling panels and scenes go throughout the Golden Age arc alone. And to experience that arc with very minor spoilers, it makes me wonder what the future holds for me in this series, but not too much to be said if you want to see a video on the manga after I catch up, because I know this manga ain't ending for like another 30 years. Be sure to comment down below if you want to see that video, and make sure to read Berserk if you haven't already. Moving on, we have Monster at number 6. Now, Monster was also another series I love the anime for so much I had to go back and read the manga, and to some degree, this is the first and only work I've read from Naoki Urasawa, and I definitely can say at first his character designs weren't really my thing, but they definitely grew on me over time and throughout the series of Monster. I don't know if this will make complete sense, but never have I ever been so intimidated by an anime and or manga character so much than when I was with Johann Liebert. And to me, just like with Guts and Griffith, the dynamic between Kenzo Tenma and Johann Liebert is a dynamic that is pretty hard to match, at least within the seinen genre, and it for sure kept me on my feet through the entire way through. There were some slow parts here and there, but that just comes with a mystery thriller like Monster. But overall, characters like Tenma, Johann, Grimmer, and Inspector Lumge were huge parts to why I enjoyed Monster so much, so if you haven't already, read Monster. Now, coming in at number 5, we have The Promised Neverland. So before I get into specifics, there have only ever been 3 series in my lifetime that have ever given me this feeling that is honestly indescribable at this point in time. But if I were to try and describe it, it's kind of like when you think about a manga so much that everything within the world gets involved within your daily thinking process. And after the entirety of The Promised Neverland, you might be wondering why it isn't higher on this list. Well, some things do change, and throughout the story of The Promised Neverland, towards the later half of this series, it started to lose me, which was something that I thought would never happen, but inevitably I wasn't so upset with how it ended like everyone else was. However, I was upset with the left out details surrounding the later half of the series, but as a whole, The Promised Neverland was a manga that instantly caught my attention and hooked me to a point where I started freaking out that there wasn't any chapters out yet. The entire mystery slash thriller of the series and the unsolved questions is what really reeled me in as a reader. I would say the series lacks some quality characters like in the other manga I mentioned beforehand, but for the ones that you really need to pay attention to, they're a lot of fun, and so is the series overall. So like the others, if you haven't already, make sure to check out and read The Promised Neverland. And next up at the number 4 spot, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, unlike The Promised Neverland, this isn't the series that got me changing my whole mind process, but it is one that definitely manipulated it at some points in time. And it's crazy because I haven't even read part 7 and 8 yet, where people do consider it to be the peaks of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which they probably are, and I ain't doubting anyone, but what I like more so from each part of 1 through 6 is just simply what's in the title of the manga, and that's how bizarre things are. It's definitely a manga that I don't think I'll be able to experience ever again, just because of how much this man Araki is different from anybody else in the industry, and I love the fact that Araki can make me enjoy each and every single part, some more than others obviously, but there isn't necessarily a part I think is bad. And it's crazy how if this was any other mangaka, it would definitely be a lot harder for them to pull off some of the things that Araki does within his own manga alone. And for that's why I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure so much and why it's at my number 4 spot on this list. But read JoJo's if you haven't already, you might understand a meme or two. Alright, so moving up to the number 3 spot on the chart, we have Oyasumi Punpun or Goodnight Punpun. Now, I want to say it's been about an entire month since reading the entirety of the manga, so I've had a little bit to sit with the series and basically reflect on life as a whole. Because before going into this manga, I had already known the extreme deaths that this manga has taken, and that alone had myself intimidated at first to even touch the series. And I highly suggest if you're in some sort of depression state or just in not so good of a mindset right now, I would highly recommend you not to touch this manga until you feel comfortable with life and everything around you. Yeah, it's that deep. But as for the manga overall, it was more so of a love-hate relationship. There were moments in the manga I had felt heartwarmed and felt for the characters of the series, but I feel like that was kind of the point to build you up in that state, just for everything to all come crumbling down in the worst fall you have ever felt while reading a series like this before. But it's definitely a series as of right now I thoroughly enjoyed the time I spent with the manga, but I don't think I'll ever pick it back up again. So it would be better to try and not to explain the series right now, but I would recommend it to any of you that are looking for a quote-unquote that type of story. I wouldn't even know what to call it right now, but please make sure to be in a safe state of mind while reading Goodnight Punpun. Okay, now moving on to the big dogs. My second favorite manga. These last two really shouldn't be a surprise to people that know me, but coming in at number 2, we have Attack on Titan, or Shingeki no Kyojin. And Attack on Titan, believe it or not, was the first manga I had ever read, and I believe I picked it up back in 2013 after the first season of the anime ended. And just like The Promised Neverland, this was another one of those series that I just could not stop thinking about. I loved every aspect about the first season of the anime, so I went straight to the manga after just pure excitement over what's to come in the future of the series. And now, knowing mostly everything that I wanted to know back when I was a kid, I would tell myself you're gonna feel very satisfied with what you're about to involve yourself with for the next 7.5 years. It's really just a manga that hits home for me because I think the anime is what got me super into anime and manga, so that alone is a big factor why this channel really exists. So not much else to say other than if you haven't read Attack on Titan or Shingeki no Kyojin, then please pick up AOT and start reading it because you aren't gonna be sorry. And now that we're here, I don't think this one will come to a surprise to anybody, but coming in at number 1, we have the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, of course. We have One Piece. And I think that with all things considered, this can be an obvious one to some people, even if you're not a fan of One Piece. That just looking at how long the story is, of course, people that spend so much time with the manga are going to choose this as their favorite just because, well, we've had a longer time to connect with the story. And really, to some degree, I do think One Piece is the best written journey of all time, at least from what I've read, and that's what really captivates me within a series. But if a series can check all the things One Piece does and more, you probably will be in my top 1, but until then, One Piece will most likely be forever in my top 1, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. I'm definitely gonna keep an open mind because I don't want to read a series just to say it's not better than One Piece. There's really no fun in that, but until then, this has been my top 10 favorite manga. So, as always everyone, to those of you who made it to the end of the video, I hope you all did enjoy the video. This video wouldn't have been possible without the help and support from you guys, so once again, I truly do appreciate all the love and support throughout the YouTube journey so far. And make sure before you click out the video to not forget to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord if you have not already. We got the Discord up and running again, so join the Discord, link in the description box down below. And with that everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.